Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Rabbi Isai, here we go. How do I know that there's a mitzvah to think about the right carbon? Here we go. In Shechita it says Zevach Shalom Karbana. Shetehei Zvicha. What does Zevach mean? Zevach means the Shechita of Shlomim. It should be l'shem Shlomim. Should be for Shlomim. Ask the Gemara, maybe there's a carbon called Zevach Shlomim. Just like there's a carbon called the Ayla, there's a carbon called the Tamid, there's a carbon called Zevach Shlomim. Not Shechting Shlomim, but rather this is its name. It has a double name, it has two names, Zevach Shlomim. So the Gemara will prove to you that it doesn't have two names, it only has one name. And Memela, the word Zevach is referring to the Shechita part of the Shlomim, not the name of the Shlomim. And therefore, I have a puzzle to learn that you have to have in mind a lishma while you're shechting. Milchsiv, because it says somewhere else, hamakriv is dam hashlamim. What's missing here? The word zevach. Obviously, the name of this carbon is shlamim. It also says hazorek is dam hashlamim. That he threw the blood of the shlamim. It doesn't say zevach shlamim. Great. V'loiksiv zevach. These psukim doesn't say the word zevach. Over here it says zevach. Zevach means the shechita l'shem shlamim. It should be with intent for shlamim. That's great. Ashkechon zvicha. I just have a pasuk for shechita. Shara avodas minol. How do I know the rest, the other three? V'chitema leilef mizvicha. Maybe we should learn all three from zvicha. Mal zvicha, no, it has a chumrah.
Oy vey, what am I going to do with these teeth? They have a mind of their own.
Okay. Again, if somebody shechs a carbon, I say, I want to shech this carbon for this 95-year-old who can't chew on the meat. He can't eat the carbon Pesach. The carbon Pesach is puzzle. That thought only ruins the carbon Pesach when I think about it during the shechita. But if during the Kabbalah Zrika Halacha, I think, I am doing the zrika for an old man who can't eat the carbon Pesach, it doesn't make it possible. So you see there's a chumrah in shechita, therefore, if there's something special about shechita, it doesn't allow me to learn other things from it. Elo makra, hamakriv is dam hashlamim. Shtei kabbalah l'shem shlamim. You have to accept the blood. Hamakriv means to accept the blood l'shem shlamim. Says the Gemara. So we're still holding over there in the beginning of the sugya, and we already did Kabbalah, and now the question is, why can't I learn Shechita from Kabbalah? I have a positive that you have to, what again? You have to have good intent when I do the Kabbalah of the Dam. I have to think to myself, this is an oila. A lot of work going on over here. It says Isha here, they take it out, because Kabbalah Saddam is puzzled by a Yisrael. And therefore, I cannot learn Shechita from Kabbalah. Ashkechon Shechita of Kabbalah, Zrika Minolan. Now, how do I know Zrika? Maybe I should learn from both. Maybe I should learn Zrika from these two. This side right over here is called Tzafon. This is Tzafon, this is Darim. This is Mizrach down here. So, these animals, it has to be shechted in this area right over here. Okay. Ma'alahani. So I want to learn Shechita and Kabbalah from Zrika. I want to learn Zrika. I should learn Shechita and Kabbalah. Zrika and Olam. I should learn Zrika from Shechita and Kabbalah. Malahani shekain tunis tzafon. There's no chiyuv to throw the blood from tzafon, but there's a chiyuv to do the Shechita in some karbanos over here, and the Kabbalah as well. So that's a chumrah. And there's also, you have to do shechita, you have to do Kabbalah for inner animals that go over here. There's a certain zrika that you do in here, but it's not really zrika. So therefore, that particular animal doesn't have zrika. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. This is inside over here. The coin goes like this, 3 dots you see on the floor, on the paroiches. But that's not a real zrika. So we have what we call a chumrah. Elo makro. So therefore we go back over here. That's why by Zrika we have a special pasuk. Hazorik is dam shlamim. Right over here. Shetei Zrika l'shem shlamim. You have to have kavanah for shlam. So as the Gemara, once we have the pasuk by Zrika, let's just say it over there and learn everything else out of it. Mishum dekel miprach mal Zrika shekain chayav aleh zar misa. Something very chomer here. Here's the zar again, pouring the blood. He's chayav misa if he does that. How do I know halacha? I should learn that when I'm walking with the blood, I have to have kavanah for that particular oila, shlamim, taida, whatever it is. Chatos. All three, you must do shchita, kabbalah, and zrika, but you don't have to do halacha because you can be standing next to the mizbeach. You don't need to do it. I have a pasuk. This is referring to the halacha of walking the Evarim to the Evarim is the limbs to the ramp. V'tanya v'krivu zu kabbalas hadam. V'tanya v'krivu zoi kabbalas hadam. The word ikrivu means kabbalas hadam, but the Torah called it halacha. Lememra, the halacha leitapka. Where's the pasuk? Here. V'shachat v'ikrivu v'zarvu. Yishecht, kabbalas hadam, or halacha hadam and zrikas hadam. V'ikrivu. Zu halachas evarim lakevish. V'tanya v'ikrivu zu kabbalas hadam. So over here, v'shachat v'ikrivu is referring to kabbalas hadam. V'avi rachmana b'lashon halacha. L'meimra the halacha leitapka miklal kabbalah. The reason why it's called halacha is because that you should know that it has the same halachas as kabbalah. In other words, you must have intent for the carbon. You have to have the right intent for the carbon. So let's get these terms in our head. Shinui kodesh. Shinui kodesh is what we're discussing until now. The kohen messes up. Instead of saying this is a ayla, he thinks in his mind, says even with his mouth, this is a shlamim. He messes up the kodesh, the kedusha, the type of carbon it is. That's shinui kodesh. The shinui bailam. You work really hard and you bring this carbon to the Beis Hamikdash. You have to have intent for the right owner. Wrong intent for the owner is very bad. Very bad. Might be even worse than having the wrong intent of a carbon. So we have two things. Intent for the right carbon. He messed up on the carbon. Instead of Ayla, he did Shlamim. Instead of Ruvain, he did Shimon. How do you know that this is a problem? That you have to have Lishma. The Shchita. We said Zevach means Shchita. You have to have a mind for the Toida. Now, throughout Shas, but we got to get used to this one. We have a concept called if this, you have an extra pasuk here, it comes to teach you something, but I don't need it. It's completely, I already learned it. How did I learn it? I had all these psukim right over here. We have 4 psukim that taught us this idea that you have to lishma, lishma, lishma. We got it in all 4. So I don't need a 5th pasuk. So if I don't need a 5th pasuk, what am I going to do with it? I'm going to use it for this idea that I have to have lishma for the owner. Instead of, you better think about Reuben and not Shimon. Because I already learned it out from all these psukim. So I'm going to use it for changing of ownership. But this pasuk doesn't come to tell us that. Look at the Zanya. It teaches us something else. If it teaches us something else, how can I learn this halacha that I have to have the shema by for the owner? What is that? What did I learn from it? Ubisar zevach toidas shlamov. Abachanan noimer mishum Rabbi Eliezer balalamid toidas sheshachta l'shem shlamim ksheira. I'll give you a gewaldic example. If I take an apple and I make Baruch Atah Hashem L'keinu Chaylam Boirei Pri Ha'adama. Yaitza, not Yaitza? Yaitza. Why? Because, it's not the best thing, because the apple grows on the ground. What if I take a cucumber and I say Baruch Atah Hashem L'keinu Chaylam Boirei Pri Ha'etz? Not good. So something similar, the Gemara says over here, that if I take a Taida and I say it's a Shlamim, that's okay. Because a Taida is under the category of Shlamim. But if I take a Shlamim, and I say it's a taida, that doesn't work. And how do I know it from this pasuk? Because it says in the pasuk, taida shlamov. If I take a taida, carbon taida, which is under the umbrella of shlamim, we're going to see like a carbon pesach is sort of under the umbrella of a shlamim. Kshera, then it's kosher. But if I reverse it, I take the father, shlamim, sheshachta, l'shem taida, and call it its son, psula, it doesn't work for the owner. It's possible. It's not good for the owner. My average menzel is that what's the difference? Taida kriya shlamim, because a taida can be called a shlamim. Shlamim kriya taida, but a shlamim is never called a taida. What's a taida again? If I want to give thanks to the Rebbeinu Shalom because I was saved from a disease coming on, like what we see Agaimol, you give it Beitz Asurim, v'chulu v'chulu. Says the Gemara, Anan mizevach kamrinan. We're talking about the word zevach, but not you're right. The rest of the pasuk was that toida shlama over here. The top words over here in blue, toida shlama. That's your drasha. But I'm learning a different word, zevach. You have to have lishma. You have to think about the owner. So there are some animals that you can eat them the day that you shecht, and only that night. Karbanos, I should say, not animals. Karbanos. Many karbanos, like the shlamim, other karbanos, you could eat it for 2 days and a night. Now, look at this. I don't remember this even, but it says in the pasuk, how much can you eat it for? B'yoyim karbana yachal, the day you shecht it, 1 day only. You can't leave anything over. If you leave it over, what is that called? Loisar. So I got 1 day, the day I shecht it, and the night. How do I know that a chatas and a asham is the same thing? 1 day, 1 night. Most people are familiar that a chatas is 1 day, 1 night. Most people don't remember this pasuk, Toida Shlamav, that a Toida is different than a Shlamim and everything else. Oh, so I already used up the word Zevach. I can't use it for Lishma. They put the word Zevach at the end of the pasuk. My Zevach, why is the word Zevach in the beginning of the pasuk? Shema min otarti. I learned 2 things from it. First of all, I need the Shema. Second of all, I need to be able to Chatas and Shlamim eat only 1 day. How do I know? I see this Zevach. Zevach means a Shechita. How do I know the other avodas need the Shema for Reuven, not for Shimon? You see, if you do just the daf, you're not going to hear that one. Oh, we saw the Chumer before. Shchita, if I have a mind for an old man that can't eat the Pesach, it doesn't work. Other things not. We already established the whole first part of this year that these 4 things, by Shinu Kodesh, what's Shinu Kodesh? Think about another carbon instead of Ariel, it's a Shlamim. You have to have L'Shema, you have to have intent. All 4 avodas is the same thing, you have the same intent. You have to have good intent. But you could ask, so I have four questions I could ask here. That there's a difference between Shinu Kodesh and Shinu Bailam. Shinu Kodesh means to mess up the type of carbon it is. First of all, the actual carbon becomes puzzle when I have a bad thought, but when I think about another owner, the carbon itself, nothing happens to it. Now, this is very important. I said this yesterday, but I got to say it again. Rashi explains over here. It's hard to read. Rashi says that the only time you can mess up with the changing of ownership is zrika. You got to remember that, zrika. Either he messes up when he's doing zrika, or he messes up when he's doing shchita, thinking about zrika for the wrong guy. You got it again? The zrika, got to get into your head. When you're changing ownership, messing up on ownership, thinking instead of the old man with the beard, the guy that's pushing the wheelchair, you have to attach a zrika to it. Either it's done when the guy is spraying the blood on the mizbeach, he's thinking about the guy that pushed the wheelchair, or when he's doing shchita, kabbalah, halacha, one of those things. He's thinking, I'm doing this shchita because I'm going to do zrika for the guy pushing the wheelchair. I'm doing kabbalah because I'm going to do zrika for the guy pushing the wheelchair. There's always a thing of zrika in there. And Memela, it is. Zrika is the Iker Kapara. That's where you get the Kapara. The tshuva is done by the Zrika. It's the most important part of all the 4. So that's number 2. Because we saw that to mess up the carbon, to change the carbon from another to a shlam, you can do it in all 4 steps. Not by changing of ownership. That is the step of Zrika, the 4th step. Yeah, you can do it in all 4, but the idea is the 4th one. And you could change. So let's say somebody inherits a carbon from his father, and he gives it to the kohen, and the kohen messes up the type of carbon it is, shinu kodesh, carbon is possible. But if he messes up the ownership of the carbon is not possible. So that's another chumrah. And we have this with the community, the four avodas you can mess up, but not. We're talking about shini bailam, to change ownership. What are you changing ownership? It's owned by all of Klal Yisrael. Changing ownership. How are you changing it to the Muslims instead of the Jews? You can't do that. You can't change ownership when it comes to the community. Says the Gemara in Daf Amud Beis. The tarti lav dafka. Now, if we look at this chart of this thing, 1 and 3 don't apply. I just said 4, but 2 out of 4 get rid of. But it doesn't hurt us. Why? Because I'm trying to say, do not learn shini kodesh, shini bailam from shini kodesh. Change of a carbon from change of ownership. Why? Because this one has 4 things that are different. Okay, so I only have 2 things that are different. I still can't learn this from this. Even if I have 1 thing different, I can't learn this from this. So the says, look, 2 out of the 4 you just mentioned, I got to get rid of. Okay, I'll get rid of him. 2 out of the 4 is not 100%. Tarti mi dafka, but 2 are very solid, and therefore I can't learn 1 from the other. The Gemara just explains why 2 out of these 4 we're going to knock off. You just told me that changing ownership is not a psul in the actual carbon. Nothing happened to the actual carbon. Why? Because machshav ba'alma is just a thought. You can't change something in an animal with a thought. So when you change different designations of a carbon from a oil to a shlamim, it's only with a thought. But you see that a kohen with his thought he could passel it. So too, when you think about something with in terms of changing from Reuven to Shimon, you could make a psul in the guf to take off that particular number 1. Well, the Rebbeinu of Mari, the Omar Yeshinu Bailam Lacher Misa, that Yarshim could change the. It does become puzzle after Misa, so you have to take off number 3. So we're left with number 2 and 4. 2 and 4 is good enough for us. El Omar Ravashi, Omar Cross. So how do I know that you by Zrika you need you could mess up the Shinu Bailam? V'nir tzaloi Omar V'nir tzaloi lechaper olav. Okay? There's a kapara, by the way, real quickly, because we're holding Erev Rosh Hashanah. Olav, v'lo yachaver. Yeah, you're right. Olav v'lo yachaver. So, b'nirtza loy l'chaper olav, you have to have a mind for Reuven and not Chavera Yeshimon. As the Gemara b'ayla achidas, b'nirtza loy l'chaper olav, this pasuk is not available to learn what you want to learn from it. That you have to have l'shma when it comes to changing of different ownerships. I need for something else. The good news is that we all know the sugi because we already did this in this mesechta. If a person says Harei alai carbon, look how beautiful Yoshi did it, then the guy in red, he is responsible for the carbon. If the carbon dies, he has to bring another one. It has nothing to do with the carbon. If a person says zoo, like a zoo, then the responsibility is on the carbon itself, so to speak. Look who's wearing. He's wearing the necklace that says nether on the right. Over here, the carbon is wearing it. Zoo, he dies. I'm absolved. How do you remember that? Because it says daiv, zoo, nidava. Oh, he even moved. Whoa. Okay, that's a surprise. I didn't see that yet. There's always something new. So, zoo is daiv. Says the Gemara. My timer. Even the Omar alai. Once he says the word alai, let me go back to. Does anybody want to see the beer again? No. Even the Omar alai, command the tone lay akat vidome. It's like on his shoulder, like this guy. It's like he has this sign of this nether on his shoulder. He's responsible. Rav Ashi says the Gemara, you're right. The pasuk comes to say, like we said similar before. You can learn different things from the pasuk. One is to say that you're chayiv only in this carbon, we say Ariel, and the other is for us to tell us that you have to do lishma, loy. So now we learned that you have to have in mind for this owner when it comes to shchita and zrika, kabbalah and all, and how you know when you receive the blood in a kli, you have to also have in mind for that particular owner. Learn from there. Also something that we had earlier on Amud Aleph. This is an avodah yechayev if you go outside the Beis Hamikdash. But I don't know if we had this before. If you do shchita and zrika outside of the Beis Hamikdash, yechayev. If you do kabbalah, you receive blood, and you say, "Oh, I'm doing an avodah out in your house," you're not chayev. If you do a halacha with blood in your house, you're not chayev. Elo Rav Ashi asyom el nazir. D'chsiv v'so ayol yaseh zevach shlamim. This goat of a nazir, we're going to make shlamim. Shtei asiyasi l'shem shlamim. Now, this teaches us that what? That you can't switch designations. You can't say, "Oh, this shlamim is a ayla. The ayla is a shlamim." Do I need a pasuk for that? No. Why? Because earlier on Amud Aleph we had 4 psukim for that. So what do I do if I have extra pasuk? Imenu in lezeh, imenu in acher. Shtei asiyas l'shem shlamim. Imenu in shina kodesh. Then after them hasim because I have 4 psukim. Imenu in shina bayim. I'm going to use it for the change of ownership. It says in the pasuk, "B'sa'al yasa." Yasa is a generalization. You should do what? I don't know. You should do Zevach Shlamim Hashem. You should have Kavanah. You should have Lishma. So it's a generalization. What's a generalization? All 4 things. Givaldik how he did it. Shchita, Kabbalah, Hilacha, Zrika. But then the word Zevach is very specific. Zevach means to shecht. So it's a prat. Now, if we stop over here, because that's all we have right now, it's a klal and a prat. It's very, very different than a klal, prat, or klal. When I have a generalization, I have no idea what the word yasa means, and then there's a specification, prat. So just explain to me that the word yasa means shchita. It's referring only to shchita. Only in shchita I have to have kavana, lishma, for that carbon. Done. So I don't have a generalization anymore. That's where we're holding right now. What if I had another generalization? What if I went like this? So then it would be very generalized. And the prat, the reason why the Torah said shchita is to teach us the like certain rules, certain, what am I looking for?
Framework.
A framework. Thank you. I went like that. Framework. Great. A framework. It's generalized. It's a lot of different things. But you have to be within a framework. It can't be a bicycle. It can't be a chvesos. It has to be within, like shchita, that has kavana, and it's in the Beis Hamikdash. Okay. So, but we're not holding there. We don't have a second klal yet. We have a klal prat. So now it's very, very defined. We're talking about you have to have kavana by zevach, which means shchita. Ema yase klal zevach prat. Klalu prat, the law is, if whoever says korbanos in the morning, all of it, aim b'klal elo mashu prat. The whole generalization is based on the specification. Zevachim, only shchita, midachrin eloi. All the other avodos, kabbalah elachas rika, do not have to have special intent. I can mess up on my intent. If I thought about shlomim instead of oilot, nothing happened. Iksiv yaseh shlomim zevach k'dekamaris. If it would say in that order, yaseh zevach shlomim, yaseh shlomim zevach, you're right. If you broke up the generalization and the specification, the klal and the prat, you put the word shlomim in the middle, beautiful. The problem is it doesn't say it like that. The word shlomim is like on the top row at the end. So now I have a klal and a prat together next to each other. That's not a good klal and prat. It's not a good klal. It's not a good klal prat. I don't have the word shlomim. That what are we talking about in the middle? The whole klal sheini mali and don't know klal prat. I can't use this at all. Ravina Amar and Memelo, I don't have just shchita. Ravina Amar loylam danim v'lashem. I could learn klal prat. The thing is v'lashem, since it says the word Hashem at the end. Here we go. So now we're going to add in one more klal. you should do it for Hashem. It's a generalization. So now I have a klal, pratu, klal. And when I say klal, pratu, klal, then I have a general, and then it includes all the avodas, all 4 avodas, as the Gemara is going to explain in a second. Oh, Hashem Chazarah Kalo. I have another klal. In order for the 2 generalizations to work, they have to be similar to each other. Over here, they're not similar to each other. It says Yasa means to do. To do means all 4 avodas. Klal Basra Kol Hashem. The second one is anything you do for Hashem. The bottom of the mizbeach has 2 holes, and you pour the blood into them. And taking the pieces of meat up the mizbeach. That's also an avodah, and that's also included. No, it's okay if the 2 klalim don't match. Klal prat klal. How does it work? You have to don elkein prat. So how does it work? Just like the specification, it says shchita. It's a type of an avodah, and you have to have intent. So do the other 4 avodas, and you need to have the shema. It should be chayiv outside of the Beis. It's a type of avodah. Shchita zrika in, but that would include only 2 out of the 4. Only shchita and zrika. Kabbalah ilacha, you're not chayiv outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Inami, my problem for is dovar ton sofam v'yeshim b'chatois. But anyways, we just saw it on this chart over here. You have to do it in the northern part. I've called ton sofam v'yeshim b'chatois. Anyways, shchita v'kabbalah. So that would actually take out zrika. That only now includes shchita and kabbalah that are in the north. In zrika loy. So the Gemara says ikilamei mahachi v'ikilamei mahachi. You could say that we're coming to include zrika or kabbalah. I don't know which one. Shkulin and v'yavoy shneim. So Mela, since they're both equal, I'm going to include both Zrika and Kabbalah. L'shachrina chada v'chada. We have Zrika Kabbalah. Teku. Teku over here is one time in Shas. That one of the only times in Shas, one of the 3 times in Shas. That doesn't really mean the Teku that we know. Teku just means it should stand. These 2 things should stand there. B'milsa and Mela. I'm going to use both. I'm going to learn both Zrika and Kabbalah that you have to have the Shema. Yeah. Oh, Ibaisema Zrika min the Ravashi Nafka that he learned it from the word loy from the pasuk. Let me show you the pasuk. V'samach yadei al roish ha'olav v'nirtza loy l'chaper olav. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDaf.com.